Because the truth about health is health goes beyond just what you eat or your exercise. It has to do with your relationships. The health of your relationships, you might say, has to do with the health of your finances too. And we don't want to neglect that because we get too crazy with the clean eating thing. In fact, something that's not talked about enough is orthorexia. What is orthorexia? It's an obsession with the health of the food that you eat. And you see it a lot.
Welcome to the Legendary Life Podcast, where it's all about taking control of your health, losing fat, transforming your body, and living the life you deserve with celebrity fitness trainer and longevity enthusiast, Ted Rice. If you want to get leaner, stronger, and upgrade your health this year, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my Unstoppable After 40 newsletter. Every Friday, I send out my newsletter to help you transform your body and reclaim your health in record time. It's weekly wisdom you can read in just under 5 minutes. So go to legendarylifepodcast.com/newsletter and subscribe now. And if you're already a subscriber, I want you to pay attention for emails that are coming. We've totally revamped the newsletter, and I know you're going to love it. That's all I've got. Again, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/newsletter and subscribe now. Do you eat clean and regularly make healthy choices when it comes to your meals and snacks, but you still struggle to achieve that lean, defined body that you want? Today, we're going to talk about why clean eating is not the magic fat loss bullet you think. And more importantly, we're going to cover what needs to change to get the results you truly want when it comes to not just the level of leanness of your body, but overall health. What is up, my friend, and welcome back to the Legendary Life Podcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, I'm your host, Ted Rice, leading health coach to entrepreneurs, executives, and other high performers. And I want to tell you, I used to think that making healthy choices with the foods that I eat meant I'd never have a problem with fat loss. And as a result, in my early 20s, I would only shop at Wild Oats. That was the place that was in Miami Beach before Whole Foods bought it. And it was the place where I would go, I would spend money on Evian water, and I would buy as many things as I could that had the organic label. I would order butter online from these farms. I would go in with other people to buy a portion of a cow. So I had all this grass-fed meat in my freezer. I spent a lot of time and a lot of money to make sure that I was as healthy as possible. And at the same time, I spent a lot of time, I spent many hours in the gym. I competed in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I was very lean. And if you see photos of me during that time, the photos that we've shared, you'd agree, whoa, this guy, he's in shape. He must know what he's doing. He must know what he's talking about. In fact, people would come and work with me as a personal trainer because they felt, oh, this guy looks lean. He knows what he's doing. I want to work with him. But the truth was that my clients didn't get the same results I got. For one, I was struggling financially at the time, at least in the beginning of my personal training career. So I walked everywhere. I lived in Miami Beach and I just walked. I walked to work. I walked back from work. I took the bus to go food shopping. And even when I eventually bought my car, I would still do a lot of walking. And I regularly found myself in clubs, dancing, trying to meet women. And that's what you do when you're in Miami Beach and you're in your 20s and you're single. In addition to that, I drank copious amounts of alcohol and other party favors that we don't need to go into. And what happened to me was that I hit a wall with my business and realized that I needed to focus on it more. And by the time I was in my late 20s, I was getting beat up by all the jiu-jitsu training. It was very hard on my body. But I thought, I know what I'm doing here. So what I'll do is I'll just back off on some of the workouts. I'll tighten up my workouts. I'll do high intensity interval training. I'll do Tabatas, which is, 4-minute high intensity interval routines. But most importantly, I'll keep eating clean. And what happened was I got fat. And as I've told this story many times before, I didn't believe what was happening, or at least I didn't believe that what was happening, putting on more fat, in other words, was the result of my choices. I thought something had to be wrong with me. My hormones must be a mess. My metabolism must be a mess. Maybe that ecstasy I took up in the club and all that alcohol and all those really late nights in Miami Beach, it did something to my metabolism. And that's why I'm getting fat. Fast forward a few years, I don't think that way anymore. Actually, more than a few years, about to be 45 here. I realized that I was totally wrong about my approach. And in that approach that I was using, it was a low carb one. And I was so deep in the low carb dogma that I would go out of my way if I did eat, on the rare occasions that I did eat bread at a restaurant, it was usually at a restaurant, I would put butter on it, or either at a restaurant or going to see my family. And I remember my dad looking at me, and I would put butter on my bread and say, oh, well, no, this is healthy because if I eat, number one, butter is a whole food. And if I eat this bread without the butter, it's going to spike my blood sugar. And blood sugar is going to spike insulin. And insulin's a fat storing hormone, and it's going to make me fat. In addition to the butter, I would put coconut oil on things. And a trick that I learned from someone who's actually making a bit of a resurgence, Paul Chek. Paul told me, hey, listen, when I need to eat something, eat some ice cream, for example, or eat something sweet, I get the Haagen-Dazs full fat ice cream because the mixture of fat, it's healthy fats, and the mixture of fat with the sugar, because the sugar was what's really bad, the healthy fats from the cream and the milk and the butter, that's going to help with that blood sugar spike and avoid the high blood sugar and insulin response. And it's going to help you stay lean because it's really about your food choices, and sugar's the devil, and sugar is the opposite of eating clean. And so when I would binge on something, when I was just so strict with my diet that I had to have a little sweetness in my life, I would get a Haagen-Dazs and just crush the entire 1,200 calorie pint. And what I'd come to realize that it was completely misguided, the approach, completely misguided. Number one, what is clean or healthy is not as clear as you think it is. And what I come to learn from guys like Alan Aragon is that the quality of your food matters for sure. I mean, can we really say that a grass-fed steak and broccoli and a sweet potato, or if you want to get fancy, a purple sweet potato with some extra virgin organic Greek olive oil is the same as having a donut? We know that that's not an accurate comparison. We know that there's something more to the story there than just the calories. However, and that's true, right? But however, the calories are equally as important as your food choices. And what I've come to learn now is that the quality of the food you eat is super important, yes. But so is the amount of calories or the portion sizes. You can think about it in portion size, but when we're talking about portion size, we're really talking about calories. And I want to give you an example here. You hear this? Hopefully that's not making your mouth water too much. It is a chocolate chip peanut crunch Cliff Bar. And it says, the marketing here says, nutrition for sustained energy. And it's got a picture of a guy mountain climbing. And if we look at the ingredients, because that's what people tell us to do, look at the ingredients. Organic brown rice syrup. Oh, that sounds healthy. Organic rolled oats. So organic must be healthy. Soy protein isolate, organic cane syrup, in other words, sugar. Organic peanut butter, rice flour, peanuts, organic soy flour, peanut flour, organic oat fiber, organic roasted soybeans, cane sugar, unsweetened chocolate, natural flavors, sea salt, cocoa butter, barley, malt extract, soy lecithin, and it's got some added minerals on top of it. But folks, this thing, so fairly healthy, right? Considering how many organic ingredients, although it does have some sugar, but it's organic sugar. That's got to be different. But the reality is it's 260 calories. It's got 7 grams of fat, 41 grams of carbohydrates, and 10 grams of protein. So even though a lot of the ingredients are organic, and you would see this and say, oh, well, that's a much better choice than a Snickers bar. And in some ways, this probably has more micronutrients, in other words, vitamins and minerals, and it probably has more phytochemicals than a Snickers bar. But the calories are going to kick your butt. And here's what I've learned. Probably not a huge difference whether you eat a Snickers bar or this. Because if you're overweight or obese, the calories, they ain't helping you, no matter where they're coming from. I had a client recently, then a few months, he was so sold on the idea of healthy fats. And so if he ate a 16-ounce organic ribeye, a grass-fed ribeye, that the healthy fats in the ribeye, that was more important than how many calories that were in the steak, which is close to 1,000. And what he learned with me was, sure, the choices you make are important. But if anyone's out there telling you, hey, it's clean eating, you can eat as clean as you want, you can eat as much clean food as you want and still get results, they're lying to you. Or they're ignorant. They're not lying. They just don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're like I used to be. One thing people don't realize about me, it's like I get attacked by a lot of low carbers who are a big fan of the clean eating approach, right? Sugar's the devil. I get attacked by them. They say, you don't understand. It's like, no. I was low carb longer than you've been low carb. I was low carb 20 years ago. Think about that for a second. 20 years ago, most people, if you hear them, they're like, well, I've been low carb for 3 years. I've been low carb for 5 years. I was low carb for over 10 years, and that was years ago. And am I healthier now? Am I leaner now? You bet. Do I have more control over my nutrition now? Do I get people, my clients, better results than when I used to hammer them over the head with clean eating and especially getting rid of the carbs? Oh, yeah. You've seen my before and afters. And if you haven't, go to legendarylifepodcast.com, click on success stories, listen to the stories from my clients. And what's fascinating about my clients' success stories is their friends, the questions they get from their friends. They say, hey, you had to give up everything delicious, didn't you? And the truth is you don't have to. In fact, the problem with doing it, now I want to be clear here. I'm not saying, hey, you know, that ultra processed, those insomnia cookies that are like the caramel popcorn or Rocky Road cookies that are like 500 calories each, that's okay to eat. That's fine as long as the calories are equated. Like as long as you fit it into your calorie budget, it doesn't matter. And I don't believe that's 100% true. I believe if you could eat mostly or all whole foods or minimally processed foods, that's the way to go. The problem is what? What is the problem? Let's be honest with ourselves. Most of us, we like going out to restaurants. And when the dessert menu is brought to us and it's got the chef's name on it, and there's the chocolate lava cake or the petit gâteau or the whatever it is that you're into, you want to try a slice. You want a piece for yourself or maybe to split because it's one of the things that we enjoy doing. And so my message isn't that calories are the only thing that matter for fat loss, because they're not. And calories certainly, actually, in a way they are, but they're not the most important thing for health. There's many ways to cut calories that are unhealthy, or you could get lean by eating 500 calories of ice cream a day. Now, most people wouldn't be able to do that because I don't know about you, but if I have a scoop of ice cream, a spoon of ice cream rather, I'm going to keep eating it and I can't stop. And that's the major issue with a lot of processed foods. It's not that having a little bit is so bad. It's just that it's hard to have a little bit. But if we don't have any, that leads to the yo-yo dieting issue. You try to be so strict, and sometimes it doesn't even work. In fact, I've gotten into arguments on social media where it's like, well, who's overweight or obese who's not eating a bunch of junk food? I'm like, I get clients like that all the time, and that might be you listening right now. I don't deal with the people who are shoving bags of Cheetos in their face. I deal with people who are making a lot of money. They're successful financially, and they're going out to restaurants. And if you're eating a 16-ounce ribeye, having a couple glasses of the Opus One, and maybe some, what are you into? Bacon and Brussels sprouts, and perhaps sharing a dessert. I mean, a lot of the people that I work with, they're already eating fairly clean. So again, what I would tell you is be mindful of the number of calories you're eating, because it's like a budget, folks. I want to say this. If your goal is fat loss, and I do believe if you are overweight or obese, fat loss should be your goal. Now, some people, it's not even appropriate to have a fat loss goal. That's for a different conversation. One maybe we'll have next time. But if you're doing well in your life and you're starting to think about, okay, well, I'm doing pretty well here, but I started seeing myself in the mirror, and, although I love myself and I'm proud of myself for all the things that I've accomplished, I don't look the way I want. And I know beyond looking the way I want, it's not healthy to be this way, despite what popular voices in our society might tell you. Being obese is not healthy. It's never been healthy. It'll never be healthy. It's connected with more severe cases of COVID, which is still something we're all dealing with. It's connected with higher incidence of certain types of cancer. It's connected with diabetes. In fact, too much body fat is the cause of diabetes. Of course, there's some genetic susceptibility there. So you're crushing it, but your health needs to change. You've got to focus on the calories. And the calories, if you've tried strict diets and they haven't worked and you've fallen off the wagon, you've got to find the middle way. And that's what I teach my clients. That's what I do myself. Another thing is that if you get too strict with your diet, you become the diet weirdo. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'll give you an example. When I was in my 20s, I wouldn't go out to eat at restaurants unless they had organic options. Guess how many times I got invited to go out to eat? Not many, because there weren't that many restaurants during that time. And still, there's not a ton of organic options depending on where you live. Even in Miami, where it's quite a popular thing, maybe not as popular as California, but it makes you the weirdo. And another example is here, I'm staying at my cousin's house in San Antonio, Texas, and his family is a healthy family. There's no one here who's obese, but I can't say they eat the healthiest. There's a lot of barbecue, a lot of bacon. It's delicious, by the way. The other night, it was a bit cold, and we went outside and we had s'mores, 2 graham crackers, a marshmallow, and some Hershey's chocolate. They had the Hershey's s'mores kit. And we all went out there and we shared that moment. And do you think I'm going to look back and when I'm talking with him or I'm reminiscing with him or his wife or his 2 kids, we're going to be talking about, do you remember that time when we were eating the chicken breast and the broccoli? If we reminisce about food, we're going to be thinking about the times that, hey, remember when we had those s'mores out at your house in San Antonio and it was really cold, but we were by the fire and we were sharing stories and we were laughing and connecting. Because the truth about health is health goes beyond just what you eat or your exercise. It has to do with your relationships. The health of your relationships, you might say, has to do with the health of your finances too. And we don't want to neglect that because we get too crazy with the clean eating thing. In fact, something that's not talked about enough is orthorexia. What is orthorexia? It's a obsession with the health of the food that you eat. And you see it a lot. And I used to have a bit of it let's say, even though I wasn't formally diagnosed, looking back, I was like, this isn't healthy. It's like, yeah, but you're not healthy anyway. Even though you're eating all this organic food, your relationships are a mess. You date toxic women because you find them sexually attractive. You have a terrible relationship with your parents because they're toxic and you're toxic too. It goes beyond what you eat and your exercise. So don't let clean eating turn into something that disconnects you from the other important aspects of being a healthy person. You're not going to be on your deathbed thinking about, well, at least my relationship sucked. I had to get divorced 3 times, but at least I ate clean. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to be what you look back on. Now, of course, on the other side, you don't want to say, well, I ate all the delicious food and die early either, unless that's something you're willing to accept. Kind of the Charlie Sheen approach to eating, you might say. He seems to, we haven't heard from him in a long time, but he seemed to, all the drug use, he seemed to own. All his choices he seemed to own. Of course, again, we haven't heard from him in a long time, but the analogy I'm making is this, if it's your thing, then fine, but you got to really think like in terms of all the aspects of health, am I really doing what matters to me? And how do I find balance in everything? How do I eat the right things, but still allow for some flexibility so that I can connect with the people who I love and care about? How do I eat the right things on a regular basis so that I maintain a level of, well, let's not say a level of body fat. Let's talk about what we're really talking about. So when we look in the mirror, we're happy, but we still get to enjoy food. You hear some of these other coaches who haven't been in the business as long. Actually, a friend of mine, friendly acquaintance, let's say, he's like, oh, you're not a dog, so don't reward yourself with food. And it's like, really? Come on. Food is a reward. That's why we like delicious food. Not only is food delicious, but it's the way we connect with other people. In fact, I've traveled the world. I've lived in Thailand. I've lived in Bali. I've lived in Malaysia. I've lived in Vietnam. I've visited Hong Kong. I've visited Cambodia. I've lived in Brazil. I've lived in Mexico. I've lived in Colombia. And I will tell you this, and I've been to even more places than that, but those are the places I've lived in. And I'll tell you this, food is the way every single culture I've ever lived in, it's one of the ways they bond. And so to say it's not a reward or we don't use it for pleasure, whether it's just the culinary pleasure of, or the pleasure of tasting something exquisite, or whether it's the pleasure of connecting with others, it goes way beyond fuel. So it's about finding the balance in all of that. And how do you do that? Well, that's not what we're going to talk about today. That's what I do personally. That's what I help my clients do. And it's something I can't really do on just one podcast. In fact, that's a great idea for a podcast. How do you find the balance? But it's the question I want to leave you with. How do you find the balance for yourself? How do you find the balance in taking care of your health, but not letting your fitness pursuits detract from work, which is really important for the people who I deal with, and also from your relationships with others? That's what I want you to think about. Be more conscious, or what I'm trying to do is be more conscious about this. And guess what? I'm leaner now. I've been this lean. I'm the healthiest I've been in so long, maybe even ever, because when I was very lean, I felt terrible. I had bad relationships. I was overtraining, doing too much jujitsu, hurting my body, sleeping poorly, but I was lean. And financially, I was unhealthy too. Unhealthy relationship with money, spent too much of it, bought too many $4,000 watches and $3,000 couches, but didn't invest in becoming a better person or therapy, which is what I needed. So finding that balance, ask yourself, what do you need? Where are you going too far in certain areas, and how can you rein it in? And if you are using food as a reward, how can you rein that back and find other things that aren't, or that don't involve, other activities that don't involve eating, where you can develop there? And if you're too far with the clean eating thing, how do you need to be more flexible? Oh, and this is the challenge, folks, because if you're listening right now, if you're the type of person, I'm a clean eating for life, you're trapped in some, and you're not looking the way you want, and you're not having the relationships that you want, it's not the answer. How do I know? Because I've been there, and I deal with people who've been there. So that's what I want to leave you with. Have an incredible weekend. Love you guys, and I will speak to you on Monday. On Monday, I have another interview for you. Our guest's name is Dr. Alan Bacon. He's an accomplished expert in fitness and nutrition, but I'll tell you the reason why I'm having Dr. Alan Bacon on the show today is because I love his Instagram content. It's just a great combination of both storytelling and also actionable information. He also has the accolades. He is a certified physique and bodybuilding coach, a certified nutritionist, and a certified coach for USA Powerlifting. And he's even helped develop supplements for leading companies. He's written for Muscle and Fitness Magazine, SciFit, and the Personal Trainer Development Center. And what we're going to be talking about on this interview on Monday is busting through plateaus. So if you're someone and you've hit a plateau with your weight loss and you're not sure why, and you get mixed messages about the reasons why you would stop losing fat, if you feel like you're doing everything right, you're going to want to tune in on Monday to dive into this conversation with us. Hope you have an amazing weekend, and I'll speak to you then.
If you want to get leaner, stronger, and upgrade your health this year, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my Unstoppable After 40 newsletter. Every Friday, I send out my newsletter to help you transform your body and reclaim your health in record time. It's weekly wisdom you can read in just under 5 minutes. So go to legendarylifepodcast.com/newsletter and subscribe now. And if you're already a subscriber, I want you to pay attention for emails that are coming. We've totally revamped the newsletter, and I know you're going to love it. That's all I've got. Again, go to legendarylifepodcast.com/newsletter and subscribe now.